Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I'll be taking a look at Heads or Tails, a collection of short stories by Lilli Carré, put out by Fantagraphics. Got this in the latest Fanabucks sale, dipping into some of their back catalog. And as I get more interested in like cartooning it, the overlap between cartooning and illustration, this one really jumped out to me as something that I probably wouldn't have liked like a couple years ago, but now I really like it, just because of my taste having shifted and my interests having shifted. So I just want to go through and show just some of the stylistic variety, give a sense of the flavor of each story that's in here. When you have a one person anthology like this and they're jumping around styles, I think that's the best way to approach a review, is just an overview of what's in here. So this first story is called Kingdom, and you have this guy, basically this character, talking about his kingdom. As it goes, like, this picture frame is getting smaller and smaller, and so he's saying, it's a tight fit, a little on the snug side. And I kind of like that idea of the picture plane as the kingdom of the artist. We have this rectangle, and within that, like, this is our kingdom. We can do whatever we want on this paper, but we are bound by it. And I think that was kind of the underlying point of this first one. But yeah, beautiful design. You can see the use of spot colors here. I don't know if this is actually spot color because there's so many colors throughout the book. I don't know if each little chunk got its own printing quality or not. It's a little hard to tell with some of these colors, but looking like spot colors at least. Then the next story is called Wishy Washy. I absolutely love the art in here. This is the exact kind of balance between cartooning and illustration that I love. The balance between like a very formal understanding of composition and shape and color, where it's obviously plants, but the interest of the artist is more just the abstract arrangement of space and shapes and negative shapes and stuff like that. So really love that. And this is just a story about a guy who can always make very easy snap decisions about aesthetic stuff, and then eventually becomes wishy-washy and loses that ability. But love this page. This is the type of stuff that's super inspirational to me. Then there's a bunch of things like this story called Into the Night that I feel they seem just like older work to me. I don't know if these are chronological or whatnot, or if Lilli Carré is just like really like me, gets restless and wants to jump around styles and try something more Edward Gorey with a lot of the cross hatching and stuff like that in it. I prefer the more shape-based stuff, but again, that's like 2 or 3 years ago. I probably would have preferred the hatchy stuff better. That's just a personal preference at the time. This story is called Into the Night. I like that even though it is mostly black and white with the wash and a lot of this hatching, that there's some color thrown in there. So still someone who's just like plain. The thing about Madeline is the next story. Again, a much more linear style. This seems to be like the Lilli Carré's stock style, maybe, throughout the book. Seems to be the most present one, where you have like this type of line work with a single color wash over it. This one has a utterly terrifying story that actually sparked really good conversation between me and Tori, where you have this woman comes home one night and stumbles in her room and finds herself already there. And it's like, it's not someone pretending to be her or whatever. It's literally like she's there. And so we had a really good conversation about how both of us would react to that. And it's a really interesting story seeing how this Madeline reacts to that. The next story is called The Carnival, and you see that same approach to line art here, but with a more robust palette in the colors. It's not limited to a single monochrome. This looks like it was mostly watercolor colored, but there might be some gouache elements in there as well. So maybe like a blue line coloring process. But, exploring and continuing to explore the style. The reason why I say I think these things might be mixed out of order, chronological order of completion, is just that I see some of the like seeds of what's in what I think is the more accomplished sections like this. The growth from like working in black and white to adding like one color to adding more colors, becoming more sophisticated with shape and negative space in the compositions as they go. This one, though, I really like the story in this one quite a bit. I think the stories that have the more linear stuff tend to be the more solid stories, and the other ones become more poetic. And I think as someone moves more towards cartooning and brevity and like just pure formal kind of sophistication in their artwork, like I could see why you'd want to be doing that in your writing as well, so it actually syncs up. But I'm like still a narrative person story wise, so I really like this one. This guy just like flees his house that while it's flooding and is like, screw this, I'm gonna go to the carnival. And then he meets a girl, starts flirting with her, and they go up on this Ferris wheel together. And this would totally be me here. He already didn't want to get on it, but he's wanting to be like flirt with this chick and get away from her kid as well. Her kid's like down in the seat below them, basically. And they get stuck on the Ferris wheel, and he's freaking out, like claustrophobic panic attack. And this woman talks him through it, and that would totally be me. Like I'd avoid Ferris wheels and anything where I could get stuck like the plague, because I don't know if it's claustrophobia. I think it's properly agoraphobia. I don't like situations that I can't get out of if I feel like I want to. So it has a claustrophobic component, and yeah, that guy's experiencing it really bad. And then this one also, I know I'm talking more about this one, but the story is so strange and interesting to me. Also sparked off a good conversation between me and Tori, because this guy winds up heading back to the hotel with this woman. I forget, I think it's her hotel room. And she's like washing her kid and putting him to bed, and then like almost having sex with this dude, making out with this dude, like while her kid's in the bathtub. And that's the dude she just met at the fair. So we were talking about all the hell knows, what is this woman thinking? So I really value that about this book as well, that there's a lot of just stuff in the stories to talk about and spark conversation with someone in the room with you. That's always good writing to me. This is from a story called Too Hot to Sleep. That's just basically about being in the summer out at the beach. Love this drawing here. Here's another kind of move in production where now instead of drawing with pen and ink and color, this is like drawn with pencils and color pencils. And I love all this sunburn on here. Just really fun. And then you get a jump back into the more shape-based cartooning. So I think those few were put at the front just to like put some really strong work up at the front, and then you treat it more chronologically. That was kind of my impression of the book. This story was called The Rainbow Moment, and the rainbow moment is an interesting emotional moment that's being described like you're feeling both rain and sunshine at the same time and are caught somewhere between. And they're talking about like seeing someone who was stuck in one of these like strangely mixed emotion states. And everything that Toria and I have been through over the last couple of years, I've experienced some of those. Like one time, she was having like what looks like a seizure or something. It was really scary moments for us, but also something really funny happened while it was happening, and so I was both like just laughing hysterically, as was she, while also having like this seizure. And it was just such a comedic moment, but such a painful moment. So these complex mix of emotions, when people can represent that well in a story, that's maybe something I wouldn't have even been able to appreciate until the last year or so. But I really, really appreciate that in this book. There's a lot of complexities like that. And this one also is constructed out of a bunch of nested stories, which I think is really interesting. So you start off with like one person telling a story here, and then he's like, oh, I saw this girl who was having this experience, and then she's telling him her experience at a bookstore, and then the lady at the bookstore is telling this woman an experience. And I really like that story structure, that kind of Canterbury Tales nested story structure. Here she's talking about the best bookstore ever, which is just like the type of bookstore where she's having a hard time even like crouching down in between the aisles because they're so tightly packed. That's definitely, I think Tori and I have that vision of like our ideal library in our house is like that. And then because she's a tall, skinny gal here, this just reminds me of when me and Tori went to the John King bookstore in Detroit. We have a video on the channel about that if you want to check it out, that trip that Tori and I took book hunting. This reminds me of Tori like gleefully running around like big, lanky in this very tight bookshelves, and yeah, brought back good memories. And then also just you can see what I'm talking about here, the formal sophistication of working more with shape and color, really sophisticated use of negative space, and just really great cartooning and body acting distortions there. So really enjoy that. And this story just keeps going. I think I lost count. I don't even think I started with the good count, but we're 4 or 5 or 6, we just keep going down the tunnel there. Then we get all of them at once kind of saying like the main thing that's driving the story. I will, dear, but for now I think the best thing would be to sit around here a second more, to wait and see if I can hold out for just a little longer before returning to the way things are or were or may as well have been. I just want to leapfrog between things until I need to remember where the walls are. And so you get them kind of coming in as like a chorus together to make one statement, as they're all also making their final statement of the story they've been telling. And that's just such an amazing piece, like formally tricky piece of writing. And then you still kind of cycle through the rest of them here to get like the come down of it all as you back up out of the layers. So I really think this is a super impressive one. It's one that I'm definitely going to go back and read 3 or 4 times because I feel it will unfold itself more. As like when you first start reading it, the structure's not so obvious, like some of these things you have to see the structure and then go back to really get all the intricacies of it. But really sophisticated art, really sophisticated writing. Really love that one. This story is called The Flip Part 1. This is basically like people saying, if it's heads, then you'll do my laundry. If it's tails, you will sweep my room. And they take it to an absurd extreme. I will live forever. When I die, it will be while dreaming with no regrets. Again, this more like focus on cartooning and illustration, simple spot colors. Then they flip it and basically like the woman just lays down and nothing happens. And with the demands between the two people, also you got a look at 2 very different personalities, 2 different ways of interacting with the world. And this is part 1, and in part 2 there's kind of like almost like a judgment on which of the 2 approaches, or the problem with one of the 2 approaches. I don't know how to put it. Again, kind of a complicated one that I should probably read a couple times to really formulate a thought on. Then there's a section called short bits that are more just like one-pager type of things. Again, a lot of these are that like shape and color based thing that I'm really enjoying. So just really love these like short little almost poetics of form type of things, right? It's they're telling a story, but they're more about like the shapes and the colors and the rhythm of this thing coming back up and wilting and coming back up, or just the guy getting burnt, like these little visual things. There's just some really, really cool ones here. Like I feel this very intensely as well. When you wake up in the morning, you look like an old painting that has been hit with sunlight from the window for years, like all kind of washed out and faded. You could still make out your silhouette and a crazy look in your eye. And the colors that are being used here are also like some colors that you'd see on like a print that's been faded or whatever, or some paint colors where they don't have light fastness. So I think that's really funny. I kind of feel that way in the morning. And again, just the sophistication of the composition and the use of shape and the distortions, cartoon distortions of the body. It's all really inspirational stuff to me. Here's another one, it's just, it's called Stress Orchestra. So the cartooning of like stress there, I think is really, really great. You can see over here some other awesome cartooning. So a lot to be enjoyed throughout that section. There's this, which is called Frequent Gags in Early Cinema. That's kind of fun. And again, an excuse to do some really sophisticated, fun cartooning there. You can see as I go further in the book, this, like what I'm talking about, it looks like there's a progression from this type of cartooning to these things seeming like the more sophisticated, more recent things by this artist. So just some really cool, like woodblock looking stuff. Really fun one about a parrot here. This is called The Hot Street. Now we're getting some sophistication also with like print technology. So more of the type of stuff that I'm really, really getting interested in and hoping to accomplish in my next book, where I think this is all being accomplished digitally. I don't think this is actually published with this one spot color, because there's just too many different like spot colors throughout, I would imagine. So I think this is still a CMYK print, but the things are being done digitally to get as close as possible to looking like areas where the colors aren't trapped, and so you get like the processed black and then the processed black with the purple over it, and then there's other areas where they overlap where the images have been trapped, and so you don't get those overlaps. Like you don't get it here on the shoes. It's really clean, and that control of trapped versus untrapped colors is something that I find really interesting and fascinating, and also it's being used here to, in at least one spot, tell something. It's not just a look, it's actually has some content, because you have this guy here who's obviously naked with an erection underneath his shirt, and that's represented just by the physical printing process, that you learning more about the characters there. And I think that's a really smart way to do like a cutaway. So really like the look of it, and then I think there's some really clever uses of it. I'm probably missing some other uses of it here, but I think it's really, really interesting, and again shows sophistication. And then that continues on here. You can see again now it's happening with a third color in the mix. You've got a red, a green, and a black, and these like intersections here where the characters are making love and their bodies are coming together. I think there's a lot that's being gotten out of material process that's leading to actual like symbolic content. And so that's you can't ask for more than that in art, and especially in comics. As comics as a print medium primarily, I think a lot of people treat it as a drawing medium primarily, myself included until recently. It's a print medium, and so learn the material processes of print, and it's a print medium that works with images and words, and so getting as much symbolic weight as you can out of the processes, of course that's going to make for a better medium. And then headed towards, like I said, towards the end with some of these, you get to where it's more poetic, so the writing starts to match the taut sophistication, the brevity of cartooning. I've thought about you a lot, maybe 20 times, but each time you get a little foggier. And again, great cartooning here, like showing visually that mental state, as do my memories of all the people I've ever met and everywhere I've ever been. And then you just get all these beautiful, like early modernist abstractions. Also like great illustrations, great cartooning all the way throughout of different people and persons and their personality, the look of them, their essence. I think this page is just absolutely beautiful. And then you get at the end, I don't want to show totally what's going on here, but you get part 2 of the flip, and you get to follow and see what's happening for the person who's waiting for the coin. So every little piece in this book, even in the shorts, I could have gone on about each one of them. This is just a book of very, very sophisticated illustration, very, very sophisticated writing, cartooning, production. Everything about this is great. I went to see what else Lilli Carré has put out, and sadly it looks like she's moved on into like film and other things beyond making comics, so it doesn't look like there's much new with comics coming out from this artist, unfortunately. But if there ever is anything else, collection of short stories, a big full work, like, I'm 100% there. I'm 100% on board. This is someone who I think is going to be influencing me a lot in the coming years as I delve into these same type of interests myself. It's good to see masters of it, to help me figure out how to work in this mode. So really, really appreciated this book. It's definitely one that, like, this is self-accusation. I probably wouldn't have liked it 3 years ago. I love it now. And I would recommend it for everyone, but also I get that some people, that there's just like, this is a mode that may not appeal to them, but I think there's a lot to be gained from this, even if you're interested in more realistic cartooning or line-based art, things like that. There's a lot to be learned from looking at people who are so sophisticated with shape and color and things like that. So highly recommended, but definitely within a certain taste lane. Plaza by Yokoyama Yuichi. This is translated by Ryan Holmberg and is very large for a manga, so that's a really cool feature of this book, this standard manga size. And this is just a 200 some odd page representation of what Yokoyama Yuichi thinks of the Carnival parade. And he's just made this like relentlessly loud and rhythmic book that pushes all kinds of amazing boundaries of what comics and manga are, and we could not recommend this book more.